You, man, trust me, I don't even know whether it's worth losing my job behind. But you know how I am. That can hurt. Okay, so in the event, I'm going to read this to you off the paper, and I'm going to try to keep it within the time limit. Okay, but this speech, of course, Michael Taylor, once again, SPD-100, speech for persuasion. This is Ms. Deborah Moran. Is customer services and organizations' ability to supply the customer's wants and their needs. So therefore, the assumption of understanding the process is very unprofessional in financial aid. And many students are entering from the high school level or reevaluating job opportunities, and they're really clueless about the fund finding process. The majority of these students miss enrollment, and they start classes late or are late receiving their textbooks because of communication inconsistencies, and financial aid just doesn't come through the way that they actually should as far as communicating with the student and posting the information. And then Miss Lindsay Swinton from a website I went to, she was correct in saying that it's pertinent to understand the customer's needs and then to meet the customer's needs, and I actually state that at the basis. Okay. Now, this is the question here. Should students go through that? No, the students shouldn't go through that. The financial aid officers should receive continuous professional development for those programs to be filled with the quality service and customer service. Because most of the organizations rely on customer service skills to acquire and keep patrons. In Thomas Nelson Community College itself, it addresses customer service in its code of ethics. And that's what I jotted down from you yesterday when you brought me the code of ethics, because it's actually in there kind of indirectly. And what we should actually do is make them practice what they preach. In fact, Thomas Nelson's previous president, President Schneckschneider, I don't know whether you remember this, but he put together a task force that would evaluate the admissions process, and he actually used Alex from IT department to head that up. And the key about that was that they did investigate the admissions process, and they found problems with that, which I won't go into here. But what they didn't do is they didn't look at the financial aid aspect of it. They just looked at the registration and admissions portion of it. And President Diva, of course, is he's new here at Thomas Nelson. He's the newest president that we have. We just elected to choose him. And he's familiar with Thomas Nelson goals because he was an English instructor here years ago. And the good thing about that is reevaluation is a viable option. So we can actually get somebody to look into that process again because we have a new administration. Okay, what this means is that it's highly possible that a proper complaint procedure followed, if it's followed correctly, that the admissions process could be reevaluated and refocused to include more financial aid aspect. So unfortunately, Thomas Nelson has been at peak enrollment for almost 2 years now, and although the problem is obvious to us, it's really not going to be that obvious to the number crunchers or administrators who actually run the college. Okay, and what I did is I went out and I looked at a couple of websites, and there was this website by this guy called Christopher M. Knight, and he does workshops and he does training. And this is where professional development actually comes into play, because professional development is actually mandatory for us. They have mandatory town hall meetings and things like that. But what he talks about is the 7 major customer service skills, and I state that as well in the end. But what he says is that it's communication. Of course, you have to be able to talk to the people that you're servicing. It's listening, because sometimes when you're explaining a problem to them, they're so in tune to telling you what they want you to hear so that you can leave them. They're not even really paying attention to you over there. Problem solving. Sometimes you come to them and you have a problem, and they don't care about your problem. They just care about what's going on with them. Flexibility, of course, you have to be able to go back and forth. The initiative and proactiveness. So sometimes if they see you sitting there and they recognize that you have a problem and you don't understand, you know, as good customer service means that you'll pull that person to the side and you'll try to help them understand the process that they're going through, and just sheer professionalism. Okay. Now here at Thomas Nelson Community College, the CSSA, the College Support Staff Association, which I was an area representative of, and for a short time a vice president, second vice president of that organization. We host Professional Development Day during our Collegeman Day, and this happens in the spring, so we can incorporate some of that training there, although it should be on a continuous basis. And administration, like I said once before, they host mandatory town hall meetings. Therefore, I mean, Money, you've been to a couple of those things where you come in, you have to go, you don't have a choice. And there is a collaboration with Hampton Diversity Inclusion, and I actually went to that program with Dave and them. and they have multiple colleges and workshops. Well, it's not a real college. They just call it a college because it's a program. It's an in-depth program that teaches you how to deal with customer service and quality skills. It's a very good program. So here, with an exception of the formal complaints, there's not many things that we can do as a student. Therefore, we must rely on the college, police, and college itself. Now, I believe a student holds the key to the outcome of the customer to client relations here at Thomas Nelson. And personally, what it makes me do is it just makes me recognize when I go talk to these people when there's a problem, and it's kind of a good thing because I can address it, and I understand both sides of the coin. Once again, I'm a public administration student, so I know the demands on the college, but I also can recognize the demands of a student, and that's very important as well. So that was actually my fourth speech, which actually bounces off my third speech. So once again, I'm sorry I didn't have any PowerPoint presentation because I just really finished the speech yesterday. But since I had to get on my soapbox about financial aid, I figured I just might as well stop. Yeah, but go ahead if you have a question.
Sure. Financial aid people don't let us know that we have to have a certain amount of credits to get our grants.
That's something else that that's a good question, Mike. That's something else that should be that actually should be looked at inside the interview or that process of why it breaks down like that. Because once again, that goes into quality customer services. You know, because if you're going to try to promote the program, you have to let people know what's going on in the program. So if you know that in order to maintain your financial aid, you know what, basically what it is that they assume sometimes that you know more than you actually know about financial aid. So those of us who've been coming to school for a while, because we've been into crunches like that before, we realize that if it's, you know, if it's in the summertime, I mean, you know, you have to take a minimum of 6 credits in order to maintain in a work study program or with financial aid, and then I think it's 9 credits throughout the year. So, you know, we know that just by going through it semester after semester. But you're absolutely positively right. That's something that should be incorporated, and that's some documentation in all actuality that they can put in that checklist, so you'll have an opportunity to actually put your eyes on it. And if you have a question about it, you can call somebody and get pertinent information about it. Any more questions?
If students were to file a complaint about the customer service at Thomas Nelson, what would be the first assumption to go through?
Well, the first person you remember that financial aid for you is a student service, okay, and your deaner. So who you would actually go to with a problem like that was your first stop. My first stop, if I was a student, would actually be student government, okay. But you know, because they'll tell you where you need to go because that's what they're there for. They're actually there for the student. But as an administrator, I would say that student services, and that's Dr. Vicki Richmond, you know, who used to run admissions, in her office would definitely guide you on where to go and what to do from there. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you very much once again. That actually completes all 4 speeches. I really appreciate your time. Yes, sir.
That was almost an hour.
Gabby, you're getting paid for 3.
I know. Hey, you recorded that too.